Welcome to 'Cause We're Nerds, the podcast that covers trends and new releases in comics, movies, video games, board games, and much more. I'm your co-host, better known as Jacob, and with me is your host, Caleb.
What's up, guys?
Superheroes are almost always portrayed as characters that stand on a high moral ground and help keep a society moving smoothly out of the kindness of their hearts. However, what if all of that was flipped? What if superheroes were hired and had no moral ground to stand on? Well, the hit Amazon Prime show The Boys does exactly that. How does the series achieve this, you might ask? Well, find out on this week's episode of 'Cause We're Nerds. What's up, Caleb?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Pretty good. I have an insane story to start the episode out with.
That's good. I need to pick me up.
Okay, well, this is actually not a really pick me up.
Okay,
Maybe
well,
it is.
good.
Maybe it is. Well, we're gonna see. So, get this, alright? I've been going to the gym every single night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the past, month, okay? Well, last night I went. First off, I hit a new bench max of 245 pounds, which is my body weight, so I can officially bench myself. Thank you.
I'd like a picture of that.
Oh, I actually have a picture of that. I actually have a video of that.
No. I mean, of you benching yourself.
Oh. That's actually called a push-up.
True.
But anyways, so I go to the gym, like I do, and I do my cardio and everything. And strangely enough, I'm stopping and doing a lot of things that I normally don't do. I'm stopping and talking to the people at the front desk, which I rarely do. I forgot something and I had to go back in and get it. I go out to my car and I sit in there for 2 minutes, which I normally don't do. And I don't know why I did this. It just happened. Well, on my way home, it's about 10:30 at night, okay? So I start hearing screeches, like brakes going off. And I look in my rearview mirror to see a car speeding behind me, going about, 65 and a 45, okay? Well, I am like, oh no, this is not good. Well, he swerves to the right, and when he swerves to the right, he gets neck to neck with my car, and his car flips.
What?
I'm talking about flips 2 times, super slow motion in my head. I can literally see this car flipping, and then it lands on its wheels on the side of the road. I slam on my brakes and whip over to the side of the road. The guy behind me does the same thing. We both get out. I yell, call 911, and he's like, okay, I got it. Me being a volunteer firefighting, having some training, not complete medical training, but having some training, went up. I don't know what happened. My training just took over. I walk up to this guy. All of the glass is shattered in the vehicle. I mean, everything. The windshield has a hole in it. And I look at this guy and he's in shock. His pupils are ginormous. And I look down at his left arm and there is a shard of glass about 3 inches long and 1 inch wide sticking out right above or right below his elbow. Right? I'm talking about you take your arm, you flip it over, palm up, right below the indentation of your arm where your elbow's at. It was right there. And this was squirting blood. I'm talking about he hit an artery, and it was like you take a water hose and put your thumb on top. And the pressure's so strong that water starts squirting out. That's how much blood was coming out. I'm not even exaggerating. So I am talking to this guy as I'm trying to figure out what to do. And instantly I'm like, okay, I need to tie this off. So I see a shirt in the back. So I grab one of his shirts and I tie it around his arm as tight as I possibly can. Because you don't want to use a tourniquet unless you absolutely have to. Because the chances are they'll have to get that amputated. So I was like, I don't want to do that unless I have to. Well, I tied as much as I can and I can tell it's still bleeding way too much. So I'm like, okay, I got to get a tourniquet. I don't have one. What am I going to do? I tell this guy, I don't want him looking at his arm. He's losing a lot of blood. So I tell him to look up at the ceiling and try not to move his neck. I didn't want to tell him that I was doing something. I was just trying to get him not to look. And so I see one of those, I don't know what it's called. It's the wrenches that you use to take off your tire to get the bolts off.
Mm-hmm.
The L-shaped one?
Yeah.
So I make like a makeshift tourniquet. I put it through the sleeves of the short. I wrap the short around this guy's arm. I tighten it as much as I possibly can. Slowly, the distance of the blood that is squirting goes down and down and down until it's barely coming out anymore. And I tie it as tight as I possibly can. Then I see a towel in the back, and I grab a towel and I wrap it around the glass and his arm so the glass doesn't fall out. Because that's the last thing you want to happen, right? So I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is happening. I'm the only one with this guy. It's literally just me and him. I told the guy, when I told him to call 911, I told him to move his car where the lights would hit me so I could see what I was doing and to put his hazard lights on. So he's doing that. He's calling 911. He comes up and joins me now. And he's like, okay, they're on their way. And I'm like, awesome. Thank you. So we're sitting there with this guy. Only about, I don't know, a minute, maybe a minute and a half has gone by. I have the tourniquet on. The bleeding's almost stopped. Not completely stopped, but stopped way more. His left arm is covered in blood. And he looks down at his arm and starts to freak out. And I'm like, this is not the time for this to be happening. So I tell this guy, he's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to die. I say, something along the lines of, so we got you. You're not going to die. The paramedics on the way. I said, but I need you to look up. I said, if you look down, you're going to start freaking out and it's going to cause you to bleed more. If you look up, that's the best chance you have for everything to be okay. And he looked at me and I said, that's probably not the best thing to say. And I was like, I need you to just calm down for me. And so he says, okay, I'll try. So he looks up and he's in shock. So he's not even really feeling the pain. He started feeling the pain when he looked down, because it's kind of like one of those things. If you see something, your mind's like, oh no, I'm hurt.
Right.
So anyways, the paramedics get there within like 2.5 minutes, right? And they come up and they're like, hey, what's up? And I told them, I was like, hey, I'm a volunteer firefighter. I have some first aid training. This guy, shot of glass, I'm pretty sure it hit his artery. I put a tourniquet on, stopped the bleeding. They're like, okay, awesome. Thank you. They put him on the stretcher. They put him in the ambulance. They drive away. A cop comes up and he's like, hey, can I get a statement from you? And I was like, of course. As I'm talking to this cop, I'm using my hands to kind of talk. I look down. Both of my arms from the elbow down are completely covered in blood. Like, completely, like blood is dripping off my fingers. And I'm like, this is not good. I wasn't wearing gloves. Super not good to have strangers' blood on you, let alone anybody's blood. And so, after I'm done talking to the cop, he grabs a towel out of his car, and I had some water because I just got out of the gym, and I pour it on my arms and get most of the blood off. And then he had like Germex or disinfectant, something. He put it all over my arms, and I just, keep rubbing it. And then I finally get home, and I wash my hands. I tell mom, I tell Kaylee, I called dad. I sat down and I was like, oh my goodness, that just happened.
That's insane.
Right. And it was on the first day of school.
So, wait, what time did you say this was? Like 10 o'clock at night?
This was at 10:30 at night.
Did you ever hear anything about it?
No, so the crappy thing, and this is super crappy, I've been a part of about 3 or 4 wrecks with dad, right? We've helped people out. We were on one wreck where this guy ended up dying and it was super depressing, but there's been lots of wrecks where we've helped and, they get taken to the hospital. You don't hear anything else. The only thing that I'll get to know is if he happens to die, it'll be in the papers and I might recognize his picture. But other than that, I can't know anything about him because, it's the same thing with paramedics. When they take a guy and they don't know if he's going to live or not. So that's the really crappy thing. Now, me knowing, just wanting to go in the medical field and having been in hospitals, having taken classes on this stuff, I'm pretty sure this guy's going to live unless there was another injury. I looked for injuries after I got everything done. I didn't see anything else. I'm pretty sure he had a concussion because his pupils were huge, but I don't think he had any other injury except for the glass. And I had that tourniquet on pretty soon, and he didn't pass out. So that means he didn't lose enough blood to pass out. So that's a good thing. However, I'm about 90% sure that his arm's going to get amputated because I had to put that tourniquet on so tight so he wouldn't bleed out that even if they went to the closest hospital, that's like 15 minutes away. That means that body part's without blood for probably 20, 25 minutes by the time they take it off. So, yeah.
Can you not, like, call the hospital and find out?
I don't think so, because at that point, it's patient-doctor confidentiality.
Whether he's still in the hospital or not?
Yeah, I mean, you can't call and just ask for that stuff. Now,
I mean, I know you can't ask details, but I thought, like, I would be surprised if they couldn't tell you if there was someone in the hospital with that name.
But see, I don't know his name. I literally don't know anything about him. I know what he looks like, and that's it. So, and it's not like I can call the hospital and say, hey, did you get anybody with shards of glass? No, they're not going to tell me that.
Yeah.
Now, I have some connections at the hospital, and I think I'm going to ask them, see if they know anything about it. But I don't even know exactly which hospital they took him to. I'm guessing downtown, because that's the hospital that deals more with trauma and things like that. However, they could have taken him to East. They could have taken him to wherever, but yeah.
You might have just saved that guy's life.
I know, dude. It was absolutely crazy. Like I said, I've been with Dad in situations like this, and, people that don't know, Caleb and my dad has experience, being a paramedic, being a firefighter, being in the medical field for the past 30, 40, 35, something like that, years. Long time. 30 years probably. Maybe less. I don't know. Long time. And so anytime we see a wreck, we stop. And so there's been several times we've experienced a wreck, and me and Dad have gone out, and Dad's told me what to do, and I've done it. This time is crazy because all those other times we were helping those people, yes, but with the exception of the one where the guy died, their lives were never at stake. Yes, they had injuries. Yes, they had broken bones, but they never could have died. This time, if I wasn't there, and I'm not saying someone else wouldn't have stopped and known what to do, but it's crazy to think about because I did all those things at the gym that I typically don't do. I happen to leave something, which added 30 seconds. I happen to talk to somebody, which added a minute. I happen to sit in my car for 2 minutes. And all of that added up to me being exactly right beside him when that happened.
Yeah, that's just Providence, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. And let me tell you what, I could not sleep last night. My adrenaline was pumping. I was like, oh my goodness. It's crazy, I want to go in the medical field. I want to be a doctor. I don't want to be that type of doctor, where it's an ER doctor, it's life or death right there every single day, every single hour. However, and I'm not saying this for selfish reason, but it made me feel good that I knew what to do, in that circumstance. And it made me feel good that I was there, that yes, this guy might lose his arm, which is awful. And I pray that he doesn't. However, losing an arm in retrospect to dying is not bad.
Yeah. Did he seem like he was drunk or anything, or he was just driving angry?
No, so I was curious. So when something like this happens, it goes super slow motion, right? So I remember looking over and literally seeing him before the car started to flip. And I remember the car flipping. It felt not to make a joke out of it, but it felt like I was the Flash. Literally, it felt super, super slow. And I didn't see a light from a phone. When I went up to him, I didn't smell alcohol. I didn't smell any smell that could be drugs. What I think happened was he was speeding and he had an older car. And I'm pretty sure I glanced at the tires. I don't think his tires were the best. So I think he was coming up behind me because I was in the left-hand lane. And he kind of whipped over in the right lane and maybe realized he went too far and tried to adjust and over-adjusted, causing the car to flip.
Yeah.
But, man, he was late 30s, early 40s.
Wow. Well, wow. Well,
yeah.
I don't... Part of me wants to say, congratulations, but also, that's not what you say in the situation. So, good job, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that's what most people have said. And it's one of those things where, I'm telling people and they're like, no way. I'm like, I know. That's how crazy this story is. but like I can't make this up. Like I was there. If I would have thought about it, and I'm not saying this to be like to prove people, oh yeah, I'm right. I would have taken a picture of the call. That way, maybe I could have like shown it to someone and been like, hey, do you know whose call this is? Like a nurse or something. Mm-hmm. And that way I would have known. But it also would have been nice to have it so people just believe me. Not that I care if they believe me, like whatever. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, all that matters is if the guy's okay. I don't care if people believe me or not.
I mean, you probably wouldn't want to be touching your phone when you had all that blood all over your hands.
Exactly. And I was trying not to touch like anything in my call. Now, granted, most of it was washed off at that time, but like I still had it under my like fingernails and
yeah.
Oof, it was.
Well, that is a really good intro to this episode.
Yeah, it is.
Man. We're talking about The Boys today. New show on Amazon Prime, which is very gory and has a lot of things sort of like what you experienced.
Yeah, and it's also about superheroes, which most people talk about helping people.
That's right. So, Jacob, give us a little synopsis on what this show is.
Okay, so I'm not very good at synopsis, but I'll do my best. So, if I was explaining to somebody what this show is, I would tell them that imagine our world today, a city. Maybe imagine Atlanta, New York. I'm saying New York. Imagine New York where instead of the police being the main defense against, terror and against crimes, there's an organization that has privatized superheroes, right? Superheroes are now hired to defend the city and help people, however that may be. However, these superheroes are also paid to do marketing, to sell products. It's kind of like they're just a celebrity. Superheroes are a celebrity in this show. A celebrity that does everything a celebrity thinks of, songs, shows, autographs, public appearances. However, as part of their job, they're also defending the public.
Yeah, and there's also like some meta stuff in there. Like there's movies made about them. They definitely make public appearances. It's very much
comics,
yeah, definitely. It's very much akin to the Instagram generation of things where it's all about appearances. It's all about how many likes you get. In fact, they talk about likes all the time. They talk about the superheroes trending. The superheroes are the product of this company, and it's the goal of the company to make money. So obviously they want them to come across and look really good to the public.
Exactly. And the superheroes themselves, purposely throughout the show do or don't do things that could help or hurt their appearances.
Yeah. So this is a super different kind of show. There have been a lot more comic book adaptation shows in the last couple of years that aren't necessarily superheroes. Things that come to mind are things like the Umbrella Academy. They're kind of superheroes, but not exactly. And I feel like this falls into that realm way more than, say, a Daredevil or something like that.
Oh, I completely agree. And this one is even more unique to me. When the Umbrella Academy came out, I was like, wow, we haven't really seen anything like this before. However, with this, we really haven't seen anything like this before.
Yeah, the closest thing I can equate this to would be Watchmen, the movie.
Yep.
But they still feel very different, although the maturity is of a similar scale, although I would say that this is even more mature than Watchmen.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Both from a content perspective, as well as just general themes and ideologies and what the show explores. It's a lot more cerebral.
Oh, I completely agree. Now, before we get too far, Caleb, let's let the viewers know, the listeners, are we doing non-spoilers and spoilers? Are we just doing What do you want to do?
So we're going to start with non-spoilers here, and if there's things we want to talk about later, we'll jump into spoilers at that point.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good.
So they're basically, this team of superheroes that we've talked about, it's basically a fake Justice League. You've got a Superman-style character. You've got a Wonder Woman-style character. Yeah, so Homelander is basically Superman. You've got a Wonder Woman-style character whose name is Queen Maeve. You've got a Batman-style character whose name is something Noir.
Black Noir.
Black Noir, yep.
Yeah, Noir.
You've got a Flash character who is A-Train. You've got...
Aquaman character named The Deep.
Yep. And then you have a new character that's kind of one of our point of view characters that comes in called Starlight.
You're missing one.
Oh, I am missing one. There is an invisible person who doesn't really have someone like him in the Justice League.
I disagree. I think he's kind of like Martian Manhunter.
Okay, so he's a little bit like Martian Manhunter, and he is called Translucent, which is funny because he's not translucent, he's invisible, which would be transparent, which is funny.
Whoa. Whoa.
You didn't think about that, did you?
Amazon, what you doing?
Yeah, so this is based on a comic series. I don't know how old it is. In fact, I can't even remember who wrote it. It's a really well-known writer. I'm going to have to look that up.
I didn't know this was based off anything.
Oh yeah, this is definitely based off a comic.
That's interesting and kind of makes me want to read that.
Okay, so this is written by Garth Ennis and illustrated by Derek Robertson. Okay, actually, this doesn't really have anybody super famous attached to it. I thought it did. Yeah, so this started in 2006, and it ran until 2012 with 72 issues. So it's a relatively short run for this type of comic, and it's also pretty new.
Wow. And yeah, for anybody that may be listening to this in the future, the first episode of the show, not the comic, aired July 26, 2019. So about 7 years later.
Yeah, and
after it ended.
I did hear that this was originally actually going to be a movie, and it was stuck in development for so long that it ended up becoming this TV show.
See, I think this works way better as a TV show.
Yeah, I don't think that this would work quite as well as a movie either, because I think that the story that you're telling is definitely more of a long form story. I mean, if you're got a comic book series, which is long form, and you're transferring that to something, then yeah, I mean, it makes sense to transfer it to something else that's long form, like a TV show. I think a lot of the interesting elements in this series would have been cut out if it were condensed down to a movie.
I agree. And also, not even just that, I feel like there's too many new characters that people don't know of. You know, if you were to come out, for example, the MCU with Spider-Man, they didn't have to tell the backstory because we've already seen the backstory before. With these characters, we haven't really seen anything unless you happen to read the comic, which, I mean, I didn't hear anything about it. I don't know if you heard anything about it before this. But you can't, like, they need the time to be able to flesh out each character so you can grow attachments to them. And in a movie, there's absolutely no way they could do that.
I mean, I disagree with that because they do that. Any movie, any just original movie that has a cast of characters does that. I mean, The Hateful Eight did that. Like, it's definitely possible, but it's different from what we're used to for comic book adaptions. But again, I do think this definitely works better as a TV show. I didn't hear about this prior to the TV show. I heard about it, I think, for the first time when they announced they were adapting it. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. You know, I wasn't really planning on watching it until the trailer started coming out and I started seeing things about it. And I thought, oh, no, that looks interesting.
Yeah, and this is, I remember when the trailers first came out and I saw it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. It does look interesting, but it doesn't really look like something I might be interested in. I kind of had the same feeling with the new Watchmen trailer for the HBO show. You know, I was like,
yeah.
I was interested, but I wasn't invested at all.
All right, so what did you think about this show? Did you like it a lot? Did you think it was dumb, too gory, too over the top?
Okay, I love this show. It is by no means perfect. However, it's something that is so different from what we're used to seeing. The actors, oh my, I think the casting is amazing in this. Everybody from, you know, main characters like Homelander to supporting characters, I think do an amazing job.
Yeah.
And when I first started watching it, some of the characters came across as kind of cheesy to me. But the further you get in, I'm like, oh, like they were kind of supposed to be that way. That makes sense. And so I will say at the beginning, I didn't like it as much. However, around mid-season and definitely end of season, I was like, okay, give me season 2 now.
Yeah, so like I had heard some stuff about the series, some of a little bit more explicit stuff about it, but I wasn't really sure what to expect. And within the first 2 or 3 minutes, I was like, oh, that's the kind of show that this is. Okay. And at that point, I really wasn't sure what to think about it. I had kind of a similar experience. I don't know if I was in at the end of the first episode. I was kind of sort of watching it with Courtney. Courtney didn't really want to watch it, but I did. So I was sitting there. She was sitting there. It's not really the type of show that I would sit down and watch with Courtney. This is much more a show that I would watch myself. You could tell that she was like kind of off-put by it, at least on the first episode. But there are a lot of things that happen that develop that sense, because the first episode really introduces you to some of the gore that goes on, some of the level, the state of the world, I guess, because it's kind of like just a regular world, but it's a very cynical look on the world. And so that can sometimes kind of make it come across as just, I guess, cynical in itself. And sometimes that's hard to latch onto when it's a piece of entertainment. But it does develop itself as it goes along. And I totally agree with the character thing, Jacob. I think every major character in here, even some of the minor ones, get a lot of backstory and a lot of character development. And there's no character that is focused on at all that I'm like, oh, I didn't get enough from that one.
Yeah, I completely agree. They spent the perfect amount on each character for me to feel like, not necessarily that I personally knew them, but for me to feel like I've heard of them before. Like this wasn't the first time seeing them in a show, and especially with the characters that they majorly pointed on, I was like, okay, yes, like they gave us backstory, but they also gave us more than a backstory. And sometimes I like that because, for example, this being in a show form, they're able to do that. Yes, they're able to show the background kind of like movies do, but they'll also to show you some side scenes that definitely would have been cut out from movies, but expand more on the character themselves, allowing you to be able to attach more.
Now, one thing that reminded me a lot of the Umbrella Academy when comparing this is the fact that, yeah, they're both kind of superheroes. There's not a whole lot of action in this show, though. If you really break it down, there's almost no fighting. And the action that there is more like a beat of action, and then a whole bunch of other stuff happens, and then another single beat of action, or sometimes it's not even action. Sometimes it's just gore and death.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And that reminded me a lot of the Umbrella Academy because it took a similar approach. However, the writing of the show is so good, and the conceit of this show is so good that it doesn't matter. It's not a show that's really focused on action. It's not supposed to be focused on action. It's about the drama. The action is there to forward the story, to forward the drama, and unveil new things about the characters that you didn't know before.
And also what's really interesting about this show is that it's believable. The way they do this, it doesn't seem like these people just believe that the superheroes are gods, kind of like Superman. Yes, they know they're high up there and everybody, really likes them. However, it's not like all they're doing is beating up enemies like Caleb said and only going to massive events. There's smaller events that would totally happen in real life. There's superheroes signing autographs. There's superheroes going to like football games and in tiny football stadiums having like, events. And that's stuff that would totally happen. And the superheroes themselves are going through issues that you see as you watch more and more and more, and it just makes this show so believable, especially that they don't kind of sideline those things that actually happen in the world, like Caleb said. For example, you watch Superman, you watch Batman, yes, you see crime fighting, yes, you see murder. However, in this show, there's more stuff. There's stuff that you typically don't see in a superhero movie. And without going into detail, just talking about some stuff, I mean, there's a little bit of, blackmail in there and a little bit of assault of several different kinds. And so you typically don't see this in superhero movies. And when you see this, you're like, this really happens in the world, and the way, even the cinematography, it's not like there's a bright filter over it, that everything seems like, oh man, that's so shiny, that's so new. No, the streets look dirty, the buildings look dirty, everything looks like it looks just about in real life, and it really kind of puts you in the movie and makes you think, wow, this could be real. It's not, but you're definitely thinking in the back of your head, wow, like, this seems really realistic.
Yeah, it's really well thought out and everything makes sense. There are a few gimmies that you have to give the show. Things like, well, if superheroes were real, it probably wouldn't be controlled by a private corporation. Okay, but I can give the show that. That's like the starting premise of the show. And I think that's easy to give it. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It's grimy when it needs to be. It's gritty when it needs to be. It's light and fluffy when it needs to be, which is not super often. To be fair.
There's funny moments that are hilarious in this.
Yeah.
And there's moments that are incredibly gory, but that are also funny. And you're like, whoa, shouldn't this be actiony? And the show's like, no, it should be comedic. And like, it does this weird in between and back and forth that really complements the show in the end.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it before, but some of that is almost Deadpool-ish, where you've got the over-the-top gore, and then there's a little bit of comedy in there. Not necessarily to that extent, but just that kind of concept.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, one thing I really enjoyed about this show is, so the Justice League people are called the Seven, right? They're the top, they're the cream of the crop, they're the ones that everybody looks up to, but they're not the only superheroes. There's different little hints and side conversations that we get throughout the series where there's lots of other superheroes that this company employs. I think maybe like 200 of them that are spread across the United States. And that's really interesting because that kind of gives you the Justice League example of superheroes, but it also kind of gives you the everyday regular superhero that you could see in a comic book or a TV show or whatever, who's out there in a city doing their own thing and doesn't do stuff on that level. And again, it kind of feels much more real world. Like, yeah, of course you would have this scale, almost like football, right? Like you've got college level, you've got professional level, you've got levels underneath that, and you kind of work your way through the ranks up to the top. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of fantasy superhero league thing where you bet on who does the best or who gets the most likes or who has the most crime that they stop in a season.
Oh, no, I guarantee you that they have that. With everything else in the show, that would only make sense. Whenever you look up and you see superheroes in Times Square, like on buildings and promoting cereal and stuff, people are keeping statistics about them and what they're doing. And I bet the company themselves that has the superheroes launches that because it's a company and it's there to make money.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Now, was there anything that stood out to you in the show as being like, that they didn't need that?
As bad?
Yeah, like stuff that you didn't really care for.
Sorry, my throat's giving me some issues. I can't really think of anything. Sometimes I felt like the show actually could have used a little bit more action. Just a little bit. There were some parts, and I'm only thinking of like one, maybe two, where it was a little slow. Just a little bit. However, for the most part, the show moved at a pretty even pace, and everything was to get to the end. Like you said, there wasn't anything that they just did to do, really. So I don't really think so, actually. What about you?
I can't think of anything. I know the show is definitely not for everyone. It is super gory. At times, it's very sexual. It's not going to be for people that don't want to experience those kinds of things. Although that said, the show is not exclusively those things. Those things are in here, but it's not just for shock value. It fits the world. It fits the story that they're trying to tell. It makes sense. So those things don't really bother me per se, but I could see them being an issue for other people. I don't really have any complaints in general, though. I think that everything was well thought out. Everything made sense. I don't feel like any time was wasted. I didn't feel like there was any weird episodes that went off on a tangent and did something different. I like the fact that they switch between the perspective character quite frequently. In fact, you basically follow the story of two different characters throughout this season. as those stories end up converging at a certain point. And it's really interesting the trajectory that they decide to send those people on and what ends up happening.
Yeah, I really like how the perspective is not just on, or you don't just see one perspective in the show. You know, like you said, it switches back and forth. And I think that actually really helps the show, because I know one of my things with series that if they go for a long time is that they follow one character and you can get bored of one character. It doesn't matter how interesting they are. You know, you can really get bored of them unless you introduce another interesting character, which is exactly what this show did. And switching between two very interesting, very different characters gives you huge amounts of perspective that really just lavishes the show's ideas and principles.
Yeah, if this show went on forever and never stopped, I definitely think that it could hit a Walking Dead or a Game of Thrones issue where it's like, all right, well, we've done all of these things. Where do we go from here? Like, what do we do to up this? I could definitely see that being an issue here. However, it's based on a comic book, and that comic book is only 72 issues long. If they stick to something like that for the TV show, I don't think they're going to have a problem. They have already gone off script with what happens in the comic books. I haven't read the comic books, but I know a little bit about it. And they've already gone quite a bit off script with it, so I don't know if they're going to be adhering to it completely. But if they take the same approach they did to this season with that, and they end it when it needs to end, I think we'll be good. Based on everything I know, I'd say that this show can maybe get 4 or 5 really good seasons, and then end it.
See, I agree. However, once they ended it, I would like to see a spin-off series of this. Just from what I've seen so far, I want to see, depending where the show goes, and without getting into spoilers, I want to see some other stuff that's going on in some different areas other than the United States.
Okay. I don't know if I'd want to see a full spin-off show about things like that. What could be interesting is an anthology series, a spin-off anthology series, where each episode, or maybe you get like 3 episodes for a story arc, focuses on a different character or a different set of people or a different story. Kind of like a Black Mirror sort of thing. I think that could be really interesting in this world.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And I think there's so many cool stories that you could do with this. And, I want to talk about some stuff.
All right, let's jump into spoilers. Let's jump into spoilers then.
Okay, so spoilers, obviously, we just said it twice. That's 3 times. Here's 4 spoilers, turn back. Okay. I would love to see this show progress to a point where we get to see more superhero on superhero action. We haven't got to see that in this first season, really. Mm-hmm. Briefly, we got to see that. However, with there being 200 plus superheroes in the United States, and once these people start having kids, you could have, because we saw at the end of the season that the kids have the powers of the adults, of the superheroes. We don't know to what extent, but they at least have them. So you could see team ups with children. You could see other countries copying this and coming up with a villain team and having, kind of like a Civil War esque thing going on. And I think that would be really, really interesting if done right, and if they stick to what they're doing and not just have combat 24/7.
So I think that the show is headed in that direction for season 2. I mean, with the reveal that there's basically superhero terrorists now, that's definitely going to be a focus. I also think that with the what is it, V? Super V? Something V.
The drug. I don't remember.
Okay, well, V. We're just going to call it V. It might just be V. I think that gives like people their powers, and I kind of wonder if some of the main characters, like Huey, is going to take that and gain powers.
Oh, that would be really interesting. See, because I want to know that I want to see some characters that are not employed for the company, that are kind of doing their own thing. Kind of more characters, more like Black Noir, whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. I want to see more characters like him, like more Batman-esque characters that are maybe living in a small town or something, doing their own thing, and then they kind of create like a team of misfit superheroes to kind of battle some of these larger superheroes or even the terrorist organizations.
That could also be really interesting. I thought, well, before I get to that, when we were talking off air a couple weeks ago, or it could have been on air, you said that I said there was a character that was basically Batman, and you said no, once you get to a certain point, he's going to make you think of a different character. Who were you talking about?
Oh man. Oh man. Come on, Jacob. I remember saying that too because I started thinking of the fight scene between him and the Asian girl.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh man, give me a second.
Okay. That's all right.
Noir.
Black
That's a really hard word for me to say.
Black noir.
Okay.
Black noir.
I thought about a character.
Black noir. Black noir.
You know, I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember, but whatever the character was, I was thinking of was a character that obviously like used throwing knives as their main weapon and never talked. I mean, it was almost exactly like him.
Bullseye?
No. It was a superhero in the DC universe. Ah, man.
I got no idea.
It'll come to me at some point. But, man, that's aggravating. Man. Anywho, yeah, I love his character. We don't get to see a lot of him in season 1. And that makes me excited about season 2 because I think he's going to be a bigger character there. Especially because a lot of the 7 is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want to see him. He seems like such a mysterious character and someone that could have a really, really cool background.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see that.
Definitely. Yeah, one thing that I thought was really interesting was how they talked about to kill the heroes. Like, they're all different. Like, you know, it's not one magical thing that can kill each one of them. They're all their own puzzle, and that makes so much sense. I mean, yeah, sure, Superman might be allergic to kryptonite. It might make him break out in a rash. But Batman is a person, and maybe you just need to break his fingers and he's good.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I like how they didn't do one of those things where, oh, they come up with a gun and you just have to shoot the, you know, that'd be stupid. I'm glad they didn't come up with that. I like how each character is individual, especially the first character you see is translucent, which dies a really awful death.
Is he the first character you see?
The first character you see die.
Is he the first character that you see?
I hurt you. Something this show, I'm not even gonna lie, something this show did that like swerved me, that like broke my ankles, that made me do like a 180, you know, whatever you want to say, was when the show first started and it started talking about Huey's girlfriend. I thought she was gonna be a main character.
Yep.
Like a big part of the show. And because they're showing her, you know, walking around, they're showing the meat. And I was like, okay, let's see, you know, something's going to be about her. You know, because I try to think about shows sometimes and like where they're going. And then all of a sudden, boom, she's gone. And I was like, what just happened?
Yep.
I was like, isn't she a main character? I don't know. And from that point on, no character was safe. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know who's gonna die. I don't know when they're gonna die. I don't know how they're gonna die. Whether it would be a bomb up the butt or like running into them super fast. You know, I was like, oh my goodness.
I didn't get the sense that anybody could die at any time, but her dying definitely caught me off guard. That's the thing I referenced when I said like 3 or 4 minutes in, you'll know the type of show it is. Because yeah, you totally think, oh, this is what the show is going to be about. And it is, but in a different way.
And let me tell you what, one of my favorite things that this show does is introduce the Asian girl for the good guys. For the boys. You know, the one that has superpowers that has a healing factor. I love that. It gives them not even a 1-up against the 7, but it gives them a small fighting chance. And when I thought she died, I thought it was kind of a waste. You know, because I was like, man, as soon as she ran away and he ran into Black Noir, I was like, she's going to come back. please don't kill her. And then they killed her, and I was like, man. And then you see her heal, and I was like, oh, well played, Amazon. Well played.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. For a second, I actually thought that Frenchie was going to die.
Really?
Yeah, in that scene, I thought they were going to kill him.
I will say, he's actually one of my favorite characters in here.
Yeah, I'd say, well, my only issue with him, maybe this is something I didn't like. It's not really anyone's fault. He was really hard to understand sometimes.
I get that complaint. That's valid. I had to use some context clues sometimes.
Yeah, like there were definitely conversations where I caught maybe 50% of it.
Now, I'll tell you while we're talking about the cast, I think that Carl Urban, Billy Butcher, oh my goodness. Like, that accent was really good. And just him as a character was so interesting to me, especially when they started going into his background. And at the very end of the season, I was like, what?
I mean, yes, his accent is good. I don't think it's real. It doesn't feel real. It feels like he's purposely trying to ham it up.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, and I like that. Like, that's funny, and I like him. And it's kind of funny because I think that as the show goes on, at the beginning, you're like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. As it goes on, because of other things he does and that accent, you kind of start to think, or at least I did, is this guy unhinged? Like, should they be working with him? Is there a problem here?
Oh, you know at the end of the season they shouldn't have been working with him. He tried to blow himself up.
Well, that's different. Like, that makes sense at the time. But I mean, before you get there, you're like, you know, because he starts doing things that doesn't feel like he did at the beginning. And it starts to feel like, no, it is just about him, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I could see that. His character was hard for me to read. You know, like you said, he kept doing things. When he introduced that badge at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. You know, basically it's an intelligence agency trying to stop a privatized superhero business from doing their thing. And then when it reveals, you know, that he's not, I was like, interesting. Why didn't he just say that? And then when he tries to get Huey to come with him and kept trying and trying and trying, I was like, maybe there's a connection there somehow. And then, you know, he leaves Huey and then he goes on like his own manhunt. I was like, I don't know what to tell about this guy, you know? Like, he's just kind of all over.
Yeah, I did think that his flashback scenes were really good and really helped flesh everything out.
Oh, I agree. Now, I'm just going to say this. One of my favorite scenes in the entire show is a comedic scene, which I did not expect, especially after the first episode. And it was when the Deep goes to basically SeaWorld and gets the dolphin. and he's driving and they're like talking and they have like a romance thing going on. And then the cops stop him and he slams on his brakes and the dolphin goes flying past him and they have like that moment. And then he gets in the road and I was like, oh no, but he's okay. And then he gets ran over.
Yep. Yep. Oh, I should have seen it coming and I didn't.
Oh,
the
man.
Car. And you know what's funny and crazy about the show is he starts out as a despicable character. Like, the stuff that he does. And then at the end,
I like him.
Yeah. Going through the show, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the things he's going through. Yeah, they're his fault, but... And that's one of the interesting things as the show goes on. These superheroes are terrible. They're like some of the worst people ever. But some of them have redeeming features as you go along. Namely, him and Queen Maeve.
Oh, I agree. Now, I've started thinking, I wonder if Black Noir is going to end up being a good guy.
He totally could be.
You know? Yeah, he's so mysterious and we don't really know much about him. He doesn't talk. So it's hard to know, you know, what his feelings are about things. You can only go off his actions. And his actions so far, I mean, he hasn't really done anything like, you know, murdered people like the Homelander, which was crazy because starting the show, I really thought the whole team was going to be bad except for the Homelander.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he shoots that plane down, I was like, maybe there's a clone. Like, I still didn't believe it was him. You know, I was like, maybe there's a clone or something. And then it turns out he's the worst one among them.
Yep. And in fact, he, to me, is the best part of this show. I don't know who this actor is, and I don't even think he's American. I think that accent is fake. You can't tell. He feels all American. He feels like a man-child, which is exactly how he's supposed to come across. He's this person that has repressed feelings, that doesn't know how to act because he wasn't raised in the correct way. And he is fantastic. He is terrifying. He is interesting. He is sometimes funny. I think he's fantastic.
From New Zealand.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, his best known before this, best known job, I guess, was from Outrageous Fortune.
Yeah, never heard of that.
Yeah, neither have I. Apparently, it's a really big hit in New Zealand. But he's such an interesting character, and by the end of it, I was like, why? You know, at the beginning, I liked him, and then I hated him, and then I was like, well, I mean, he kind of has a point. I was like, I still hate him though. And then at the very end, I was like, why did he save Billy? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? That's such an odd choice for the show to show at the very last thing. Like, he didn't have to save him, and he still could have seen his son. Like, what was the point?
Oh, no, he wanted to show him that he was wrong.
Yeah, but where does it go from there? You know, like...
That's what season 2's about.
I know.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. I was just going to say, I binged all of these in one day.
Oh, no.
That really tells you something about the show, though. I watched it 8 hours through, and I didn't get tired of it.
I watched it, I think, over the course of a week and a half, or a week, maybe.
I had one day off of work, and I literally had nothing to do. Not a thing. I'd already cleaned, and school had started back, so I literally had nothing. All my friends were busy, so I said, all right, today's the day.
Nice. Now, one thing that I was expecting, and I don't think it's the case because they never touched on it, I totally thought that the woman that's in charge, the baby she has, I thought it was going to be Homelander's baby.
Oh, me too. I really did.
But I'm pretty sure that baby's dead now, so...
Oh.
Which is why he took the baby downstairs. Because he was jealous of the baby. Because the baby was getting more attention than he was.
But maybe the baby's not dead. It could be either way, honestly. Because you see the house explode, but if he could have got Billy out, he could have easily grabbed the baby on the way.
It's true. It's possible.
I bet they did that on purpose. Or maybe, even Amazon doesn't want to cross the line of admitting that a baby died. That's some pretty heavy stuff.
That's true. There were some things that they wanted to put in here that didn't make it.
There was only one. Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if we really want to talk about that.
No, we'll let people look that up on their own.
Yeah. But just for your information, guys, there was only one scene that Amazon was like, no. Which is telling you something, because all the scenes that are in here, you can just imagine how bad that one scene was.
Yeah. Season 2 of this is actually definitely confirmed. It's already been greenlit. It might even be filming at this point.
I knew that it was greenlit. I don't know if it's filming yet. I would not be surprised for them to go in and get a head start on it. But yeah, man, this show, I really like this show. At the beginning, I didn't know if I was gonna like Huey. He's such a unique character. He's
such a loser.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. He kind of seems like a baby, and he is. I mean, he is. And at the beginning, I was like, man, he's kind of annoying. Like your girlfriend died. That's awful. I know, but the way you're handling it's not the best way. And I mean, I can't really sit here and say that if my girlfriend if I had a girlfriend and she just instantly disappeared in my hands, like, I don't know how I'd handle it. Probably not as good as he did. But I was like, man, he's kind of annoying. And then halfway through, I was like, yeah, go Huey. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting, his transformation.
Yeah.
All right. So the big thing that I thought was going to happen, and I was wrong. I thought I knew how the season was going to end. I thought it was going to end with one of two things that are pretty much the same thing. I thought it was going to end with Homelander basically going crazy and going off on the world. So either him revolting against the boss lady and going and starting to kill a whole bunch of people, or them letting him into the military and him using that as an excuse to go across the world and just start blowing stuff up. And I thought it was going to end on a cliffhanger.
I thought the same thing. However, I also thought Queen Maeve was going to die. I thought the Homelander was going to kill her.
No, he kills the other woman he likes.
Yeah. So I saw, especially after the scene of A-Train and the other guy at the race, when Homelander was trying to put his arm around Queen Maeve and they had that discussion about how he said they didn't work out, I definitely thought that he was going to take out his aggression on the boss lady to Queen Maeve. But instead they switched it and he killed the boss lady and Queen Maeve is still alive.
Yeah.
Which is more interesting. It'd be really interesting to see Queen Maeve switch sides because she actually feels bad. You know, you see that. She has regrets and she doesn't think they're doing the best that they can. So it'd be interesting to see her change sides and her and Homelander fight.
Where do you think season 2 is going to go?
I don't know, because here's the issue. It was said that Homelander doesn't have a weakness, right? So I could sit here and say, man, I think it's going to be a big team up against Homelander. And it might be, but I mean, A-Train is still bad, very bad. Queen Maeve, still bad. Black Noir, bad, but we don't really know much about him. The Deep, question mark, I think he's good now. I think that the Deep is going to join the boys' side. I think that him and Annie are going to have a reunion and he's going to, feel bad. And he's going to kind of switch over. And I kind of feel like the boys are going to do kind of what they did in Heal, but a little different. I think it's going to be more secretive, hit and run tactics against the rest of the superheroes. Because I don't think they're going to they have that government contract, but I think it's going to become void. I don't know the event. There wasn't an event in this one that did it, but I think there will be an event where the military contract becomes void. However, the terrorists that they made are going to play a huge part, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
so, I don't really know. I mean, I'd like to see a villain team up against them, but I don't know. It really could go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that my initial thought is going to happen. I think that Homelander is going to go off, probably not at the beginning of season 1, like first episode, but the only person that kept him in check is now dead. He killed her, which I think is kind of symbolic of him killing any emotions he had, except for maybe towards his child. I think that it could be a story of the boys going after the child to try to get at Homelander, but I think Homelander is eventually just going to go off, start doing crazy stuff because he doesn't have anything there that he cares about anymore. There's nothing there to stop him from doing anything bad. And so he's basically going to do whatever he wants. And I think that that's a pretty good direction for the show. I think that, that leaves a lot of doors open. Yeah, you could direct that towards the enemies. You could direct that towards what are they called? The people, the terrorists. You could direct that towards the terrorist. You could direct it towards the boys. There's a lot of different directions that you could send that.
I agree. I would like to see the boys kind of do a different tactic as well. I would like them to try to turn the people's opinion against superheroes.
Yeah, and I think that's also going to happen.
Yeah, maybe shine some light on some undercover stuff they've done.
Like the plane.
Yeah, exactly. I think that could be really interesting without the people's support. What's going to happen? The government contract, these superheroes. I mean, Homelander, I don't think he'll care. I think he'll still do whatever. But is he really going to want to save people if he's not trending, if he doesn't have likes, if people don't like him? What is that going to do to him?
Exactly. And I don't really think he cared about that anyway.
True. Yeah, I think ultimately he just cared about trying to get that, what's the boss lady's name? I always call her the boss lady.
Just the boss lady.
Yeah, Madeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he honestly just cared about that. But like you said, he killed her. So what does he care about now? His child. Well, what does that mean for the rest of the world? We don't know. And that's what's so exciting.
And he might not actually care for the child. We don't know yet.
True. Maybe he just cared about being right about it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Overall, fantastic series. Check it out if you want. Be warned, not for everyone. You got to have a strong gut if you're going to watch it.
Oh, yeah. Family movie night, maybe not the best time.
No, fantastic. Just have a 3-year-old, pull them in. They'll enjoy it. It'll be great. Popcorn, the works.
Popcorn, tissues, maybe a book about depression. Who knows? You don't know what you'll need. But yeah, I would definitely, out of shows that I have seen, I'd say this ranks pretty high. It kept me involved without having just action scenes. It didn't get tiring. So if I had to rate it out of 1 to 10, I'd say this is pretty high. I'd say this is like 8.8 range.
Yeah, I'd say like an 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very good.
All right. Well, that was that, and this is this. It's time for What You've Been Up To. So, Jacob, aside from being a real American hero, what have you been up to?
Oh, man, just getting the Medal of Valor. Other than that, school has started back.
That sucks.
Yeah, so I've been in a constant state of depression. No,
Understandable.
I haven't been up to a lot. I am now working at a radio station. I don't think I said that last week.
I don't think so.
I'm now working at a radio station. Kind of. In case you guys didn't know how that works, basically there's a company that radio stations are under. It's kind of confusing. However, I work for Intercom, which is, I think, the United States' biggest, whatever they're called. It basically where radio stations go to be on air. So, at my station, there is 103.7, Kiss FM, there is Rock 105, there is 96.1 The Lake, there is 101 Country Station, and then there's one other, but it doesn't really do a lot. So I've been going out and doing live stuff with them. I have been going out and promoting the company at baseball games. I'm going this Friday morning at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. to do a live event at Hardee's, because nobody goes there past 12. And then I'm doing one at Ashley's Furniture Home Store, because everybody's got to need a bed. So that's been fun. It's been interesting. I'm still learning a lot. It's really, really cool to be able to work with that. It's more of a real job. It's more of a career than what I've had as jobs in the past. This would be something that you could easily make a career out of and step up the ladder. So that's interesting. I won't do that. However, it's interesting to see more of how a company works. Instead of just being, super ground level, bussing out a restaurant, which I started at, which we still need, and that's important. However, that's where I started at. And then going to a mattress company, like I've been working at, still, ground level, just unloading trucks, to now getting out there, being able to communicate with people, promoting a big company. And yeah, it's just really, really interesting. And I'm enjoying it so far. So other than that in school, that's about it.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what you been up to, Caleb?
Man, I couldn't even tell you. My day was not a good day. I'm actually still wearing my work clothes. I came in and immediately sat down to record. I always change, so not a great day, and it's kind of messed up my brain, so I don't know a lot of what I've been doing. I didn't have time to make notes. I guess the thing that stands out to me is I have been really, really reading those Power Rangers comics I talked about last week.
Ooh, talk about it.
I've read, since last week, 16 issues, and I think most of those were over the weekend.
Wow.
Which is a lot. I have spent a lot of money on Power Rangers comics. Just gotta tell you, I think now I've got almost the entire run of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. There's two. There's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and there's Go-Go Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin started first. It's kind of the main one. And then they started Go-Go a little after. And I've got, I think, all the first 42 issues of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is almost caught up, if not all the way caught up to current. It is really, really good. It is like unbelievably good, way better than it should be. Super page turner. Like the first volume, so each volume is about 4 issues or so. The first one's 5 because it has a issue 0 in it. The first volume, like it's okay. Like it's mostly there to introduce you to the world and the characters if you're not familiar. You know, it's okay. Issue 5 is kind of like, okay. From there on, though, it is fantastic. Like, the storyline that they put it into is very unexpected. It's new. It's original. Once that ended, I was like, okay, well, maybe I should stop reading these now because that was fantastic and they're never going to top that. And the next one changed in one way, and I was like, okay, never mind. I'm back in. Like, it's so good. I'm trying to remember a comic I've read that I've enjoyed as much. And honestly, this is kind of the feeling I've missed from my Spider-Man comics, and might be the issue, or if I can speak, it might be the reason that I don't read them as much as I used to, because they don't feel new. They don't feel original. They feel like they're rehashing the same stories. And I've thought about not buying them anymore. Courtney tells me I'll regret it, and she's probably right. But that's part of the issue. And I think that this book has that for me. And, you know, I watched Power Rangers growing up, not religiously. I was a bit old for Mighty Morphin, so I didn't catch as much of that one. I was aware of it, and I had some of it. But really what's kind of got me back into this is the board game. And so going into the book, there's things I didn't know from the show, but there's a lot of stuff that's new that they bring in just for the comics. And the art is fantastic. The writing is great. It's still Power Rangers, but it definitely ages it up like I talked about last week. It's just really, really good. I cannot recommend it enough. It's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers by Boom Studios. It's the company that's doing it. They even did, I found out, a Justice League Mighty Morphin Power Rangers crossover miniseries, of which I bought 3 issues. I'm missing 2 of them, so I gotta find those somewhere. But yeah, man, get into it. I'll let you borrow it, because if you're interested, I mean, it's just really good.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'd definitely be interested.
Yeah, if I can recommend anything, I wholeheartedly recommend those.
Yeah, I want to get back into reading. Actually, I lied. I have one more thing. I have started reading again.
Okay.
For the first time in years. I mean years. Like, I am not proud of this, but years.
Yeah, Jacob doesn't read anything. He goes to the store. He's like, I don't know what this is. It looks like cheese. Puts it in. Goes to the next place. Oh, I don't know what this is. Looks like sour cream. He gets home. It's not sour cream.
It was vanilla yogurt.
Yep. Disgusting.
No,
he never knows what time it is because he doesn't read the clock. It's just like the worst. He goes to class and they're like, all right, guys, open the book to page 552. And he just opens to a random page because he can't read numbers. He doesn't know what's going on the page.
I say, hey, Siri, read page 552 for me.
You should see this guy's test scores. I mean, not great.
Oh. I mean, I don't know how to read the test results, so I just assumed they were good. Oh man, what if when I said, hey Siri, everybody that's listening, their phone activated? That would be funny.
That would be great. Oh, also, hey Google, tell me a joke.
Aw, rip. Remember when commercials got in trouble for doing that?
Yeah, it probably won't work because I think they put something in to figure out if it's a recording or not. I'm not sure how that works, but I'm sure there's some algorithm.
Weird. Anyways, so yes, me and Leah, you know, Caleb, you know Leah, my friend, we went to
I know
McKay's.
Leah.
Shut up. We went to McKay's, the land of used books, movies, video games, and more. And I wanted to get back into reading. I'm out of my video game and TV watching mood. You know, we talked about this before. I have moments during the year where I'm just done with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of one of the points now. I'll play video games late at night, but other than that, I don't want to play them. I just feel like I'm wasting time. I feel like I could be doing something better. And so I thought, well, let me read. medical school is coming up. I'm going to have to start reading a lot. I might as well start reading something I like now just to get me back in the groove of reading. So, because my classes now, I don't have to read that much. So, I got a book by Stephen King, and it's called The Girl That Loved Tom Gordon, I believe. And it is a kind of scary mystery horror book. Which
From Stephen King? What?
Yes.
No.
Yep, exactly. Which those are the books that I think I'll really like to read. And when I was a kid, I really liked Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, and I want something that's a little bit more adult than that now. However, still mystery-ish like that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so this book is about a 9-year-old girl that gets separated from her family in a national park and gets lost. And it is very good so far. I sat down for the first time in forever, and this doesn't sound like a lot. Don't make fun of me. However, I sat down and read like 35 pages.
No, that's a lot.
Without getting up or anything. I had to pee, and I was like, no, I need to get to a good stopping point. And I've never done that with a book. Like,
Give me the catheter.
Give me the bottle. Yeah, I've never done that with a book. So that was a new experience, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm only on page 35 because I literally just started the other night. But I'm planning on reading some more. It's only like 235 pages, so I can knock it out within a week. But yeah, I got another book too. It's like, I want to say The Mist, but it's not The Mist. Because that was definitely a movie and it's not that.
The Mist is based on a Stephen King book.
No, I know, but I'm pretty sure it's not like The Mist. The cover, it has mist on it, but I don't think it's called The Mist.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to get back into those reading. Ooh. The Cloud. But yeah, so, sorry. I wasn't trying to steal your thunder. I was just trying to steal your lightning.
That's all I had.
Well, speaking of Stephen King, you know how he's a great author?
Mm-hmm.
You know who else is a great author?
You?
Close. Taylor Poole! Taylor Poole is a great author of all music and of all instruments. Because, man, let me tell you what, he can drop a beat. Go over and check out Taylor Poole at taylorpoolemusic.com. That's TAYLORPOOLE music.com.
Also, please check out our friends CNC Power Hour over on Twitch, where they stream Magic the Gathering on Sundays and video games throughout the week. They are currently down for some special surprises they're working on, but they will be back up soon. And if you're listening to this in the future, then they will, of course, still be streaming.
And while you're on the interwebs, like you do, go ahead and go on over to our website. That's cuzwenerds.com. That's literally the best place if you want to share anything about us, if you want to read about us. I'm on there. Yeah, I know. I know you're pausing this podcast right now to go look because I'm on there. So, I am your favorite co-host. So, yeah, go on there. Look at us. Read about what we like. Share some of the episodes. Look how many episodes we have. We're getting up there. We're close to 100. We're like 13 away.
Yeah, well, 14.
14 away. See, I can't read. That was just a guess. And that was still pretty good. So go ahead and go on over there. Caleb worked really hard on it. Looks great. And yeah, just give it some love.
Thanks for listening to 'Cause We're Nerds. Stay up to date with all the nerdy news and podcast drops by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also leave us comments and feedback at cuzwerenerds@gmail.com. That's CUZWERENERDS@gmail.com. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, we would love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'll see you next week, and as always, stay nerdy.
So I was definitely in charge of doing the layout for this podcast because Caleb got held up at work and I copied a template from another week and, put it on here because most of the time we say relatively the same thing except for what the show's about and what next week is about. And I forgot to delete the part about next week So I heard it in your voice, Caleb. You definitely almost said, next week, just say a word, Shazam. And I was like, oh, no.
Actually, I didn't. I don't know what you heard. Maybe it was something else. But no, I saw that actually when we sat down to start, and I was like,
Oh, man.
He took an old one.
Good. Because I saw you, like, pause for a second, which you normally do, you know. But I was like, please don't say it, please don't say it, please don't say it, please don't say it. I was like,
nah.
That would have been bad.
I was just trying to remember what the other thing I say is. And I think I said it right.
No, yeah, you definitely did say it right.
Not that, like, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't. You know.
I
But
mean,
maybe I do.
I don't know. The podcast police may come and get you. You never know.
Oh, boy. Are you friends with them?
Yes. But only because I can't read, so they have to let lots of things that I do slide. Because I can't read the rules, so. You know.
Nice.
It's a hard knock life.
Courtney, if you're listening to this, I purposely didn't tell you Jacob's story so you'd hear it on the podcast and then be all like, why didn't you tell me about the thing? Why didn't you tell me about his story, Caleb? That's not what you sound like, but it's pretty funny. Anyway, love you.